Hello, and welcome to more nerdy rodent geekery. As most of us are stuck inside at the moment, I thought it might be a good time to share some little tips for OBS. Whether you've just started, or even if you've been doing this a while, I'm sure there's something here for everyone. Hopefully you'll learn something new. So, tip number 1, the beginner's tip. If you've just started using OBS, you may not be familiar with all of the ways that you can manipulate the size of sources in your scene. So I've got a source here, which is my little nerd loop, and you've got the little handles on the corner. Now, if you drag them as normal, you can resize the image and maintain the aspect ratio. If you hold the Alt key, you can crop the image. And if you hold the Shift key, you can resize the image any way you like, so it doesn't maintain the aspect ratio. There, nice and easy. Tip number 2, always put something at the end of your source list, like a background image, or if you don't have a background image, you could just add a color source, for example. Just add an orangey one here, that will do. Width, I'll make it bigger in a minute. Oops, transform, fit to screen, there we go. We'll drop it to the last section, last place there. There you go. So, now this is quite handy in that, say you had a window here or something that was displaying an application and it crashed, then, you know, it will go back to whatever you've got set at the background there. It'll also help protect your privacy if you accidentally have a web browser open with personal details or something like that. So yeah, always have something at the bottom of your sources there that fills the screen, covers everything up. Tip number 3. Now, sometimes you can make mistakes and it's useful to back stuff up. Luckily, you can do that in OBS. You can back up your profile using profile export and obviously import if you want to get that back in again. You can do the same with your scenes. So you can export and import your scenes there as well. Now, if you've got the Stream Elements plugin installed, you've also got a cloud backup. So there you can just back up everything, you give it a little backup name, and you can do your backup, and that will back up all your profiles and scenes to the cloud. Now, obviously, if you've backed it up to the cloud, you've got the advantage of you can go anywhere. Not a good idea with the conditions at the moment, but, you know, for the future. And then you'd have all your, you know, profiles and scenes available to you wherever you were in the world. Tip number 4. Now, green screens, they're really popular, but sometimes people don't quite know how to make the green screen thing work in OBS. And, well, it's really quite easy. So whatever your media source is, it will usually be your camera, but I'm just using my nerd loop here. And then in the filters, and you can click plus or right click and add, and then you select the Chroma Key. Now, by default it's green, but you can actually pick any color you want. See, you've got blue and magenta there by default. You just pick the color, and there we go. Those colors have vanished, and anything there becomes transparent. Obviously, we've got our background there protecting us. Great, there you go, Chroma Key. That easy. Tip number 5. Now, this is sort of an OBS thing, but if you're using Windows 10, then the game bar can sometimes cause problems with your streaming and recording. So if you go to the game bar settings, you can click the little Windows thing down in the bottom there and ensure that record game clips, screenshots and broadcast using game bar is off. Tip number 6. On Windows 10, do you run OBS Studio as administrator? Well, you may find that you have to in order to capture some content. Yeah, try it. Tip number 7. Even if you are running OBS Studio as administrator, you may find that some games still won't capture. Here I've got Destiny 2 running, and it's just not working. So what you need to do instead is run the game in borderless or full screen windowed mode, and then run a window capture instead. There, we've got Destiny 2. Tip number 8. You're confused. Something doesn't work. You've got issues. You need help. Yes, you need help. And then log files, and then upload current log file or upload last log file. You can then head on over to obsproject.com analyzer, paste in your link, and you'll get an automated log file check. Tip number 9. Always keep your graphics drivers up to date. Always. Just head on over to the manufacturer's website and ensure you've got your latest drivers for your hardware. I'm running an Nvidia card, so I get mine from the Nvidia website. Tip number 10. Nesting scenes. Now, this can be useful in some instances, and how you do this is, let's make a new scene. Make this the original scene, and inside my scene I will add a new source. This could be your video camera, but I'm just going to use my existing Nerd Loop media. There we go. Now, as you can see, one of the problems is I changed it earlier, didn't I? I put that Chroma Key on, and I may not want to do that. So here's another way to do it. Instead of adding the Chroma Key, take it off there. So instead of adding the Chroma Key to the source, you can duplicate the scene, original scene 2, and then apply the filter at the scene level instead. There's my Chroma Key. I'll put it back on magenta. There. And now, when you've got another source, you can simply include the scene with the modification on. Here we go. So that's nesting scenes. Another way you can do it is just install the Stream Effects plugin, and that will give you the source mirror, which does exactly the same thing, apart from when you create a source mirror, you can pick any source you've got, and that will allow you to apply the filters then at the source level. Exactly the same thing, different way of doing it. Tip number 11. There's no need to right click and add and select media source or whatever. You know, if you've got a load of things in a folder and you want to add them, you can just drag and drop into your sources and they'll all appear. Tip number 12. You don't have to use chroma keying to have transparencies in OBS. Both PNG and MOV formats support alpha channels and hence transparency. If you want a transparency, there's a PNG file. Tip number 13. You don't have to have everything rectangular. You can use masks. In the filters, you can select Image Mask Blend, and then you can have any shape you want. I'm using an alpha mask here that's based off the color channel, and the color is white. So the white circle, anything within the white circle will show, and anything that isn't is just transparent. And here is the circle in HitFilm, basically just a white circle and a black background. You can export that frame as a PNG, and then simply use it straight in OBS. Tip number 14. OBS Studio now supports the .cube format, cubes, when you're applying a LUT. In Filters, apply LUT, and I can now browse, and I don't have to use a PNG file anymore. I can now use your standard cube file LUTs. There, I'll have an Avengers Endgame LUT. There, very red. There you go, fantastic. So you can use all your cube LUTs as well. That's the end of my tips for today, but hopefully you've learnt something new and enjoyed watching the video even if you didn't. Ta-ta for now!